Okay, so now in this phase of the software, we're going to actually tell the software where the teeth are. And if, again, as we're looking down, we're in the teeth marking phase. We're top to bottom. We're currently in the maxilla, and it's telling us, go ahead and mark the upper right central incisor. Now, the model's upside down, so I'm just going to spin this around a little bit, just so I can make my arch look the same as that. And I'm going to come up here and hold the shift button on my keyboard. That is your kind of action button. When I press shift, it turns my my arrow of my mouse into a crosshair. Let go of it, it goes back to an arrow. So I'm going to hold the shift button and I'm going to left click and left click. Left click, and I am trying to get the mesial and distal a straight line across this. I do not want it like this, because that is telling the software that the midline of the tooth is at an angle right here. I don't want it like this, the same thing. I want this to bisect the tooth from mesial to distal. Okay? The farther apart you go, the better your line is, in a sense. It's hard to differentiate the midline of the tooth if they're this close to each other. So spread them out a ways. Make it easier for yourself. Okay? In the end, the software is going to try to line these dots up so that all of them are in line with each other. Initially, they're not going to be in line because the teeth are rotated. Okay, so moving along, I'm now onto the canine. I'm going to click right here and here. And when I get to the posterior teeth, I'm going to stick with the buccal cusp, just like we want the buccal cusp in line with the cusp of the canine. So we don't want to click here and here because that's going to try to line up the midline of the tooth, the central groove, with the buccal cusp of the canine. So it's very important that we put our nodes, these little dots, right on the buccal cusp, right up on these ridges here. Okay? Now, let's pretend this premolar was gone. It was missing because they'd had orthodontic extractions in the past. Well, if that happens, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down to the gingiva and right as close, we don't want to come way down here. I'm going to right click. So I don't want this node down here. I don't want it down in no man's land on the palate. I want it close to up here. This node should be ignored, but it can actually have some influence in the software. So let's just try our best to have it way up here, right click, and that's telling the software, skip this tooth. There is no second premolar. Now, this case, I don't need that because I have both premolars, but it's hard for me to show you both in the same video. So just pretend that. Now, since I did that on accident, or I did it on purpose, but had I done it, marked it incorrectly, I can come over here and I can say, let's go one tooth back. And it removes that, and I get to remark this tooth. If I know I've completely screwed up, I can just go ahead and click on clear all teeth. If you are unable to mark the teeth, make sure that this little button is blue. It should by default be blue, but if I turn it off, I can't mark nodes. I can't add any more points. Turn it back on, and I can resume marking points. Here and here, here and here, here and here. Now, in previous videos, I sometimes talk about just doing that for the wisdom tooth. I no longer do that. I don't, because, like I said, that blue node can have some effect on the overall curve. So at this point, I try to just skip, not do that, and just say go to left side right here, because that tells the software to ignore that and to jump over the other central incisor. So it's okay to do it, to right click the edentulous spot. I did that for a long time and it didn't like hurt me, but I did find that it did make things a little bit easier down the road if I did it this way instead. So my current recommendation is to go ahead and just click that button, go to left side, and that will allow you to proceed with the other central incisor. If you forget to do one or the other, and you don't have a wisdom tooth, you'll be marking that upper left central incisor and it thinks it's the wisdom tooth. That will screw you up. So you got to do something. You have to either right click to ignore it, make a blue dot and a blue node, or you have to click that, go to left side. So we're done marking the teeth, right? There are no more teeth to mark. And you always mark every tooth. Do not get lazy and mark up to the premolars and then click, go to the left side to the other premolars because, oh, I'm leaving the molars still. Do not do that. Always mark every single tooth. It is very important. I'm not going to spend too much time discussing that right here, but just know it takes you an extra 10 to 15 seconds. It's important. Please do it. All right. I am going to click Finish Marking Teeth, and now I need to close the models. Okay? So right now, my preferences, if I go to Tools and Preferences in the Orthodontics panel, there is a closed model height. Right now, I think the default in the software is 20 millimeters. You can go as high as you want for this, truthfully, because it's going to be changed later on. So I'm going to go ahead and make it 26 millimeters just to make some pretty large models, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So now I can go ahead and press Close Model, and the software is going to process for a minute here. And when it's done, it's instead of going to have a hollowed out mesh of an intraoral scan, it's actually going to base the model, and then you'll see that it's closed, and it's also going to be quite tall because I just told it to make a 26 millimeter tall model. So give this a moment. Okay, so it is finished closing the model, and you can see this at this ginormous base. It's also irregular, not very smooth. That's okay. We're going to get rid of that in a little bit. But for now, we've got this super tall model. All right. So now I'm going to click to continue to the mandible. I'll continue with mandible. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mark these teeth right quick. Once again, mesial, distal, mesial, distal. Go to left side. Okay, so I have completed marking these teeth. I can say finish marking teeth, and now I'm going to click Close Model. Okay, so now we've got this completed. Nice, ginormously tall model. And I can click on Continue to Tooth Segmentation. This next phase is going to now create individual surfaces for every single tooth. All right, let's click here.